When the head of the dwarf-like creature was severed, it strangely picked it up and placed it back on its neck. The creature looked human, but with fox-like ears and legs resembling those of an animal. Right there I saw a jinn-like being. The dwarf-like creature was almost about 1 meter tall. These footprints belonged to that creature. With a single strike of its hand, it split the soda bottle in half. That dwarf-like creature was there with a tiny vehicle. The vehicle was no more than 1 meter in size. When it wanted to move at high speed, it lifted off the ground.
Before we dive in, let us clarify. This is not just a simple story. What you're about to hear is a retelling of real events. We decided to present this incident not only through narration but also by incorporating reports from the students and eyewitnesses involved in this mysterious event. The voices of those who saw these strange beings and their accounts of what happened that day will take you straight to the heart of this tale. Now let's uncover this astonishing story through the eyes of those who experienced it firsthand.
Describe what the creatures looked like.
The old woman had braided hair that reached down to her feet, and her face was burnt with black circles on it. The old man was bald, with ears that looked like a mix of human and fox ears. And their footprints, they looked like the hooves of a horse.
This is the spot where the dwarf-like creatures attacked the kids. And here is the footprint of one of those creatures. Most of the footprints have been erased, worn away by the wind and the constant movement of people in the area.
The creature that looked like an old man was called Rahim, and the one that looked like an old woman was called Fatemeh.
How did you find out their names? And what accent did they speak with?
They told me themselves. When I was alone, they told me their names, and they spoke in the same accent as us. Those creatures had weapons like a small pistol, and tiny swords with them.
Did they use any of those weapons?
They only used the pistol once, fired a shot that barely missed Reza's ear. But after that, they didn't use any of their weapons again.
These creatures, as described by the witnesses, looked human, but with distinctly unusual features. They were short, standing about the height of a 5-year-old child. Their feet resembled horse hooves, their ears fox-like, and their faces wrinkled and dark as if they belonged to another world entirely. But what stood out the most? They spoke, not just in any language, but in the local dialect of this region. This raises questions that are difficult to ignore. From these descriptions, we can draw a few possible conclusions. The first is one that aligns with the beliefs of many locals. Jinn, beings said to have the ability to change their appearance, taking on forms both human and inhuman. Could these creatures be the very jinn spoken of in myths and legends for centuries? The second possibility, beings often referred to as dwarves or underground dwellers, mystical entities that perhaps have lived hidden beneath the surface of the earth for thousands of years, far from human sight. And the third possibility, could they be extraterrestrial? Beings not from this planet, but from another world or even a distant galaxy? At this stage, it's too soon to conclude anything. What has been shared so far is only the tip of the iceberg. The accounts of the witnesses will reveal more, but as we dive deeper into this story, more questions arise. Who are these creatures? Why did they come here? And perhaps most unsettling of all, will they return?
Every summer on weekends, We go to one of the areas near our village and camp there from morning until evening. That day, we split into two groups. Our group was relocating because it was noon, and the spot where we were had become too sunny. The other kids had already moved their stuff ahead of us, but Sina and I were still packing up our things. That's when the others, who had gone ahead, saw the dwarf-like creatures. When we arrived, we saw two of those dwarf creatures dressed in blue shirts, heading into a well, in their vehicle. We and the other kids ran to the well, but no matter how hard we looked, we couldn't see anything. Their vehicle was about a meter tall. Later, when we saw the two dwarf creatures, an old man and an old woman, we ran to the other group to tell them. It was decided that I would go to grab their vehicle while the others confronted the creatures. When I got to the vehicle and tried to open its door, suddenly, two of the creatures appeared right next to me. I turned to run, but they didn't let me go. Two of my friends came to help me, and we got into a fight with the creatures. Every time we hit them, the creatures grew larger. Idris came from behind and struck one of them. The head of the dwarf creature fell to the ground. But then, it picked up its head with its hands and placed it back on its neck. In a shaky voice, we were terrified, and we ran. Those two creatures chased us all the way to the old road. We used one of the kids' phones to call our parents. When we all returned with the villagers to gather our belongings, we saw that all the food and drinks were gone. But the rest of our things were still there. There were footprints of those creatures and tire tracks from their vehicle all over the area, in a heavy, ominous tone. That day will never leave our memories. We were just sitting there when suddenly we saw this creature that looked like an old woman. She had long hair that went all the way down to her feet. He had a gun and he fired, but the bullet missed by just a few inches past Reza's ear. Then with a slingshot, he launched a stone that hit Habib's hand. We ran away and rushed to the other group to tell them what happened, but they didn't believe us. When that old woman-like creature got closer, Amir shouted, "There it is!" And when everyone saw it, they all ran in different directions. Later, when we came back, there was another creature on the other side, fighting with the kids. During the conflict, Amir struck him with a kebab skewer, and Idris hit him with a knife, decapitating him. But he picked up his head from the ground and placed it back on his neck.
When you saw this scene, weren't you scared?
Yes, we ran away in fear. During lunch, we were tossing bones from the kebab and chicken around. Suddenly, two creatures appeared with a vehicle. Their vehicle was barely a meter tall. They started eating the bones we had thrown away. When we saw this, we were terrified. We quickly ran to the other group and told them what we saw, but they didn't believe us. Moments later, the creatures revealed themselves to the other group as well. Everyone saw them.
It was right here that you saw it. Tell us, what did you see and what happened?
We were first sitting under the shade of this tree. We cooked our lunch over there. You can still see the spot where the firewood was. When the sun hit this tree, we moved to the shade of that other tree. That's when we saw two creatures wearing blue shirts drive into the well. We were sitting under this tree, about to eat lunch, when we noticed two other creatures watching us. They were hiding behind that big tree with their vehicle.
What is this well for?
It opened up here on its own. When the two creatures in blue shirts went inside, a few of the kids, out of curiosity, threw stones into the well. To keep our sodas cold, we buried them halfway into the dirt. But as we were running away, I saw two creatures. They ripped the soda cans apart with their hands and started drinking them like it was nothing. When Mustafa tried to run, two of those creatures attacked him. We couldn't just leave him behind, so we turned back and fought them. When we hit them, they would get injured, but after just a few moments, their wounds started healing, as if nothing had happened. We even cut off one of their heads, but then it picked up its own head from the ground, placed it back on its neck, and healed instantly. After witnessing that, we were terrified. We ran as fast as we could, never stopping for a second. We just ran.
When you hit those creatures, what happened?
When the fight started, I stabbed the creature with a skewer right in the stomach, Zrinya. But when I pulled it out, I saw it grow bigger. I did it again and again, every single time. It just kept growing bigger. When the dwarf creatures fought with me, the injuries they gave me never fully healed. There's still a mark where the old woman scratched me with her nails. Another scar is from when she kicked me, and one more from when she struck me with her cane. Even when they threw stones, one of them hit my hand and the bruise is still there. They also threw stones at the other kids. Some got hit on their legs. The bruises and cuts are still visible. Those creatures didn't just leave marks on our bodies. They left a fear we'll never forget. There's an old road between Aliabad and Hassanabad. After we ran away, those two creatures wouldn't dare cross that road. No matter what, they stayed on the other side. They threw stones at us, but they just wouldn't cross over. When the kids called and said they'd seen those creatures, we immediately contacted the police. And without any hesitation, we rushed to their location. But when we arrived, we didn't see any creatures. All we found were strange footprints, so many of them, scattered everywhere. Last year, a student and a young man also claimed they'd seen these dwarf-like creatures in the same area, but no one believed them.
When the villagers arrived, how did the dwarf-like creatures escape?
They got into their tiny vehicle. At first, it moved slowly along the ground. But as soon as the villagers came closer, the vehicle lifted about a meter off the ground, and then it sped away, incredibly fast. It was like nothing we'd ever seen before. When the kids called, about 10 to 15 of us rushed to them immediately. We found the kids completely terrified. Some of them were so scared, they had even developed a stutter. They explained how they'd fought with the dwarf-like creatures. So we went to the spot where they said the fight happened. But again, there was nothing there. Just countless footprints, shaped like horse hooves, covering almost the entire area, with a tone of dread. Even now, remembering those footprints sends chills down our spines.
We've reached the end of this story, but what it left behind was not just footprints, but a flood of unanswered questions. Small, strange beings that looked human, yet their behavior, it was anything but human. Why did these creatures grow larger when struck? Was this some kind of natural defense, or perhaps something beyond our understanding? How did their wounds heal in a matter of seconds, and how could one of them reattach its severed head as if nothing had happened? And that old road, why didn't they dare cross it? What was there so terrifying that even these powerful beings avoided it? Their actions were equally strange, a single blow that split a soda can clean in two. But why? Were they simply trying to reveal themselves? Was this some kind of warning? And perhaps the biggest question, why did they speak in the language and accent of that region? Was this mimicry just a way to communicate, or is there something much deeper at play? What we saw and heard left us not with answers, but with even more questions. We still don't know what these beings wanted, but one thing is clear. They are far more than mere legends or imagination. The evidence they left behind was real. This story is not an ending, but the beginning of a mystery. Perhaps one day we will find the answers. But until then, all we can do is question and reflect on what truly happened. Because sometimes reality is far stranger than anything we can imagine.
What did you see just now? Tell us, what did you see?
A few moments ago, I saw a dwarf-like creature with a bald head and wrinkled face.
Did you see it just now while we were having this interview? Where did you see it?
It was sitting on that tree, watching us, when suddenly it vanished.
When you saw it, weren't you scared? What did you do when you saw it?
I quickly went to my brother's spot.
Look, do you not see it now?
No, there's nothing there now.
As we were recording our report in the very area where these events unfolded, right near the well and the spot where the children had set up camp, something unexpected happened. It was nearing sunset. If we had been just a little faster, perhaps, we might have caught one of these mysterious beings on camera, maybe even while it was observing us. You see, as we were finishing up, one of the boys who had seen these creatures earlier that day suddenly froze. His face turned pale, and then trembling with fear, he let out a scream. He pointed towards a tree and shouted that he had seen one of them again. The creature, he said, was perched on a branch, watching us, but the moment it noticed the boy had seen it, it vanished. The boy, terrified, ran to stand beside his brother, seeking safety. By the time we all turned to look, it was already gone. This was not just an ordinary report. It felt like something. Something was truly watching us. Thank you for joining us on this mysterious journey. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you even more intriguing stories and uncover the world's hidden mysteries. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think these creatures were? Your ideas could help us shape future stories. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to never miss an adventure into the unknown. Together, let's keep the mystery alive.